In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt podcast,
there's a common Ford issue that's causing flat batteries, and we report how a member of my team fixed it.
In the news, we revisit insurance premium rises in light of new research.
And we answer your questions on a motorhome not reaching highest gear, tracker categories for insurance, and whether you should upplate your motorhome.
Welcome to the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights and expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and camper vans, all brought to you by thatleisureshop.com.
Now remember, please do follow on your favourite podcast app and make sure you subscribe if you watch on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is brought to you by arabasecreative.co.uk.
Let's delve into the news, shall we? A few episodes ago, we discussed motorhome premiums rising, and there's been a research showing possible correlation between motor premiums and uninsured drivers. Let me just give you a bit of background on here, Matt. The number of young motorists punished for uninsured driving has more than doubled in 2 years amid a spike in premiums. The figures, 3,000 were done for not being insured in 2021. In 2023, that had risen to 6,000. Now, this research from the IAM RoadSmart.
Yeah, that's the Institute of Advanced Motorists, as they were known. This is frightening, isn't it? I mean, it's not really... I'm sure motorhome owners are getting their vehicles insured because of their value, but the risk is if one of these 6,000 people were to drive into you, they are uninsured, and that suddenly gets very complicated. And there is a fund which you can claim from to get your motorhome repaired, but it's a headache. Been there many years ago, got hit by an uninsured driver, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah, and IAM, are concentrating on younger drivers, but obviously there are a lot of uninsured drivers of all ages on our roads. Some of the figures given out in the last couple of decades have actually been quite shocking, which is why it's important that you're properly and fully comprehensively
and I guess their premiums are rocketing. I mean, my own daughter's is, that's for sure.
My son passed a driving test 3 months ago. The cheapest we could find with app tracking on his phone, which he's not happy about, but I think is a great idea. When you finish your journey, it gives you a percentage. What it does is it looks at the map, looks at the route, and then tells you how well you've driven. And he gets 85 and 90%, which is good. Well done. The cheapest we could get for a Ford Ka was £1,400.
Yeah, Ford KA, I think it is.
Is it? Ka.
Well, see, my daughter Neve, hers was half that. It still went up. Yeah. But she lives in Plymouth. Maybe that's why. Yeah,
that's probably the difference. Anybody driving around Bristol knows exactly what we mean. So there you go. My insurance company wrote to me just a few weeks ago telling me that my insurance is due for renewal. It would be subject to a 30% increase. And they did explain it was due to the higher costs of repairs due to inflation. We forget that the economy has been inflationary up to this point. It's still running about 2.3%, isn't it? 2.4%. But that's the increase. And of course, you take your insurance out, it lasts a whole year, inflation takes a bite, and they're also saying the cost of repair has gone up. Everybody's put their prices up. The suppliers of the materials, the mechanics, and so you can see where these increases are coming from, can't you?
Yeah, and of course the asset itself has gone up in value. So in the event of theft or total loss, that 50,000 motorhome is now £70,000. So, and the insurance company are in the chair for it, aren't they? I had a really interesting chat with a guy from Howdens at a show. They had a stand, and he said the reason wasn't about supply chain. He said that during the pandemic, everyone was at home, nobody was driving about, so the claims rate plummeted, and the insurance companies sat pretty and didn't have any claim to pay out. Then everyone got back in the car, having forgotten how to drive, and crashed into each other. He didn't quite put it like this, no. I'll be honest, but you get the point. And the rate of collisions and claims went up. The premiums didn't. So the insurance companies suddenly had this massive overhead to pay out. So basically, it's a cash flow issue. So I asked him the question. I said, does that mean then that premiums will come back down? He said categorically, absolutely yes. So is this a blip? We'll see. But hopefully premiums will come down, because 30% is a big rise, isn't it?
It's a huge rise, and it's okay if you're my age and your insurance is £300 a year. 30%, yeah, it adds £100, but it's not the end of the world. But if you are my son and they're going up by 30%, his £1,400, even with 1 year's no claim, is still going to be around that, if not a couple of £100 more expensive next year.
It's going to be nearly £2,000, isn't it? So, yeah, hopefully the guy from Howden's was right, and it is a temporary blip, and we see premiums start coming down again. Maybe. And of course, it's always a competitive market, isn't it, insurance premiums? And we shop around for the best price. So insurance companies will respond to this, I'm sure. If they can bring premiums down, they will. Yeah,
they always want to attract new customers. And they do give heavy discounts. You've really got to make it your business to go around looking at. And remember, not all insurance companies are on the comparison sites. No. So you need to spend half a day doing it to get the answers that suit you. And don't be afraid to ring them up, because what I found with the big insurance companies, they're more than happy to speak to you, and they're more than happy to say no as well. No, we're not going to insure you. And that's great. There's none of this ifing and butting that's going around. Things seem to be a lot clearer. But remember, you have to be insured. Driving is expensive, has always been expensive, but you have to, by law, be insured.
Yeah, absolutely. My advice is don't use comparison sites from Motorhome Policy, because they're not motorhome specific. We've unpacked this a lot in the past.
You have.
There are real benefits to a motorhome or campervan specific policy, and it's really important that that's what you're buying, not something off the shelf, that a car policy that's just covering a van with windows. It has to be a motorhome policy to give you peace of mind and proper cover.
And that's why we do this podcast. Information like that, expertise like that from Motorhome Matt. Let's talk about your nuts then, Matt, shall we?
My bigger nuts.
So you say.
So I'm holding up a little product here which I love, and I've gone on record loving this product. This is a gas stop. This is a gas safety valve that protects you from a gas leak, and this is a new batch that's come through to us from the Netherlands. It's just arrived, and they've got bigger nuts. So there was always a complaint that the nut that you screwed into your gas bottle was smaller than the one you screw into the valve on your end of your pigtail. The nut is now 30mm to match the size of the nut on your pigtail. So our nuts are matching in size, Keith.
Well, there you go. I never thought I'd see the day.
So now you only need one spanner to fit one of these. Brilliant. Love them.
So how do you get this?
How do you buy one? Go on thatleisureshop.com and search for Gas Stop. Use the code MotorhomeMatt and get 10% off as well. They are a must-have. These should be fitted at manufacture. I use one on the barbecue at home. I use one on the barbecue in the back of the van, and I use one in the van on the gas bottle. You really should have one of these fitted. Go and look at the listing at That Leisure Shop, and there's loads of reasons why. They even have a gauge on the top as well. It gives you an idea of how much gas you've got left. But there are some other really useful benefits too. But they protect you from a gas leak. That's the fundamental. 45 quid retail, 10% off that with the code MotorhomeMatt. You must buy one.
If you've already got one, you've already bought from thatleisureshop.com, you've got the old design, do you have to upgrade to the new one, or are you okay carrying on the way you are?
No, you just carry on where you are, but you wouldn't be using the smaller spanner.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. Let's talk about our main subject on this podcast then, Matt. A common issue seen on the Ford chassis. Matt, can you explain what's happening?
Yeah, so we discovered this in our hire fleet, many of which are featuring the new Ford Transit chassis, simply because the Fiat chassis have not been available. So motorhome manufacturers have been using the Ford chassis, and we have quite a few Chausson branded motorhomes on our hire fleet, all on the Ford chassis. They go away on holiday, and the starter battery goes flat. And it means the customer's stranded. It's literally dead flat. And I know this is affecting hundreds, if not thousands, of Ford Transit drivers.
And what did Ford say about that then?
We spoke to our local Ford dealership, and they said, it's not our fault. It's because it's a motorhome. You need to go to the motorhome converter.
Yeah, because people are converting them onto the chassis, aren't they?
Well, they said it was a motorhome manufacturer issue. So we went to the dealer that supplied the Chausson motorhome, and they said, no, it's a Ford problem. It's the Ford starter battery going flat. you need to go to Ford.
Oh, hang on a second. So Ford say, no, you're converting it, so, it's different.
Yeah.
Go to the person who converted it. The person who converted it says, no, we converted it in good faith. It's a Ford issue. Oh, dear, Matt. It's
round and round and round.
It's one of those, isn't
Yep,
it? I'm sorry I was closing my eyes, but, it's the virtuous circle again.
So we had an issue where nobody would take responsibility for the problem. We decided that we would have to, because this is affecting our customers going on holiday. So we've found out that the fault is caused by condensation forming on the windscreen because it's a motorhome. And this is where Ford say, well, that's not our fault. We built a van.
So it's forming on the inside or the outside?
On the inside of the windscreen, and then running down the windscreen into behind the dashboard and shorting out the electrics, causing a fault in the ECU, which actually causes the main beam to come on.
The electric control unit, is that right? The electronic control unit.
Electronic control unit, yeah. So it shorts out a big connector inside the dashboard, and it makes the main beam come on. And in fact, we had reports from a hirer that it was 2 a.m, and suddenly they were illuminating a whole field of sheep. And the poor sheep must have been scared witless, where suddenly it was like daylight, where the main beam had come on, and it stays on for several hours. We even witnessed this happen in our yard in the daytime, where suddenly the main beam would come on. We think it's happening now. We recreated the problem, put the heating on, created all the condensation on the windscreen, and witnessed it happen. And sure enough, of course, the battery, with the keys off, the ignition is off, so it shorts it out and the battery just goes flat. So we thought, right, we need to get to the bottom of this. And so we liaised with a number of other companies around the country who are all also having the same problem. And Jordan, who is our hire fleet ops manager, who looks after the hire fleet day to day, explained to me how he got to the root of this problem and found the ECU connector that shorts out and showed me how to fix it.
He fixed it?
He fixed it.
Jordan?
So, Jordan is a superstar, and he managed to take the whole dashboard out, well, most of the dashboard out, and I said, look, we want to film you and record you doing this, because I am sure there are thousands of people with this problem, and they will want to know how they can just go ahead and fix it.
Going to start with the cup holder. If you gently push your palm in on with your left hand, pull the cup holder up, it pops out. Inside, there's 2 T25 torque screws. You just undo them. Pop them in the cup holder so you don't lose them. Next, this little lever, pull out and it pops out. Inside are 3 torque screws. Next, glove box. Open it up. With your left hand, pop it in where you've just taken the 3 torque screws out, and you'll see on the back right of the glove box is a little rubber lever what you push in towards the glove box, and it will then pull down on the glove box and it'll pop out. Inside, you've got 2 screws at the bottom. Next, left hand in the cup holder, right hand in the bit where the 3 torque screws were. Gently pull it and it comes off. At the very bottom here, it gets a little bit stuck because it's still clipped. So just be careful, gently pull it and it comes off. Next, 2 screws at the top here. Now what you do is right hand in this pocket, left hand in the glove box at the back of the plastic, and gently pull with your right hand and this pops off. Don't be afraid, it will bend. And then pull this off in the middle, and you do have a screw at the top right, also in the middle as well. Next, pull this off and it comes out. Next, up here is a black block. I will remove this. When you look up in, it will be on the wing, the passenger wing. Pull it off, lift the grey lever up and back on itself and pull it apart. Now you can see inside the plug and you'll see a load of green corrosion. Clean it with electrical cleaner, let it dry, plug it back in lift the grey lever back over and lock it in. When you've done that, I then lifted it up higher above the wiring loom, so then when condensation happens from the windscreen, what drips down the wing into this block, it now won't happen. It will now drip down, not along the wire into the block, it will drip down into the footwell, so it protects the block from getting corroded again and making your headlights flash.
So that's Jordan Miles, the hire fleet manager at Motorhome Holiday Company. It's a great fix, Matt.
Yep.
What does this mean for the customer?
Well, it means you can take responsibility for this problem and rectify it. If you're away on holiday listening to this and you've had this problem, or you are worried you're going to have this problem, and you haven't got tools with you, you can start to avoid the problem. The first thing I would suggest, and even once you've done this, I would still suggest it. If you've got a Ford Transit-based motorhome, so 2022 onwards, I would definitely be fitting external screen covers, thermal blinds to the outside the windscreen. They massively reduce the amount and almost eliminate the condensation forming.
Is that expensive?
No, not at all. They're under £100. You can spend lots on them. It depends who made them. But there are brands like Maypole, Quest that make kind of lower budget universal ones, or you can go to ProTech and get a cover made, or there are lots of manufacturers.
And
out
these
there.
go on the outside of the windscreen.
They go on the outside of the van around the windscreen and help stop the condensation forming. My advice is also to get some towels and just place them along the bottom of the windscreen inside the van, along the dashboard. So if any condensation does form, the towels soak it up and stop it running down into the dashboard. And if you do find you've got condensation, remove it straight away. Leave a window open too. If you've got the heating on, that makes the van hot inside. It condensates on the windscreen with the outside, which is colder. That's why we get condensation. So crack a roof light and let some air move around inside. That will help reduce it as well.
Well, what about using a bit of bathroom sealant along the inside?
No, you can't be doing that. No. You need, the ventilation is necessary. It would also look disgusting, and you are not grouting my tiles ever again.
It's easy. Lift your finger and put them along. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can see it now. It's not happening. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
So you've come up with a solution. There's some good DIY tips there. They're pretty cheap as well, in order to prevent this. And of course, you can listen to and watch it on YouTube as many times as you like in order to do the work yourself. But if you take it back to your dealer, will they do the work for you at all, Matt?
They may do. I know people that have gone to Ford, and that business, that individual dealership, has taken responsibility for it. And it's a fairly simple thing to do, but it does take a bit of time. It's a little bit of brute force required, and there is a risk you could break parts of the dashboard when you do it. So if you're not sure, any mechanic will be able to do it. An auto electrician will be happy to do it as well. They're used to taking dashboards out all the time. So it's about going to the dealership and saying, I know what the problem is. It is about taking this ECU connector off the side wall inside and placing it at a higher level, so that the lowest point is the cable, that if condensation forms, it drips down the cable and drips onto the footwell of the van.
Good tip. And thanks to Jordan for coming up with that one. And of course, if the dealer does agree to do it, or mechanic, you can always point them in the direction of the YouTube video, can't you?
So I want you to do this for me, and they will. It takes a couple of hours, so I'm sure any mechanic will do it for you. But I want to give a shout out as well to the other companies that we work with to come up with this solution. To Elite Motorhomes, they've been really, really helpful. To River Motorhomes, who are a big Chausson dealer, selling, hiring and servicing hundreds of these Chausson Ford Transit-based vehicles, and Luna Motorhome Hire as well, who we spoke to recently about that motorhome that blew off a cliff in Scotland. Pete and his team have also been busy trying to rectify this, and it's been a real collaboration, sharing information between all these businesses, and it's been great. We've been able to get to the bottom of this. So there you are. Now you know how to do it.
There you go. It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. It's our questions and answers section. Alan Rooney has been in touch.
Hi Matt, do you know if anyone has a problem with the Burstner Elegance 910 and 920 Mercedes engine and gearbox? They will not achieve top gear. Mine has been in the workshop for 16 weeks. They agree there is a problem with all of them, but as you know, if they declare it is a fault, they've got to call them all. Have you heard anything? Thanks, Alan Rooney.
Thanks very much for that, Alan. It sounds to me like a gearbox issue, and one really, if it's happening to more than one motorhome, they really should be on top of.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting, Alan, this is a Mercedes issue, not a Burstner issue. So the Mercedes Sprinter that your Burstner motorhome's built on, is where the problem lies. So it's not unique to Burstner. I actually rang a friend of mine, Wayne, at Chelston Motorhomes this morning and asked him the question. Now, they sell Burstner, they sell Adria, so they sell the Adria Supersonic and a whole range of Carthago motorhomes, all of which are on this Mercedes Sprinter chassis, and he has never ever come across this issue. So you say, Alan, that this is all of them. That has not been this particular dealer's experience. And I asked Wayne for comment. He said, I'm not aware of this. And he said, given the amount of money involved in buying one of these, if someone had bought one from him and gone away in it and had a problem, he would know about it. So it might be that there's a batch which are faulty, but I have not heard anything about this, Alan, I'm afraid. I will keep a close eye on it and see if I do, but I'm not aware of loads of people having this issue.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Alan, as well, is if you do have a gearbox problem, maybe something is floating around the inside, stopping you from selecting the gear. It could just be, the linkage, couldn't it, into the gearbox? I do get it checked out. That you don't want to be driving around on this and not being able to get into your highest gears.
Yeah, and of course, these components these days are all electronic, so it's all ones and noughts, so it's a swap it out for another one. So I hope that Mercedes can get to the bottom of it for you quickly, Alan. And
let us know how you get on as well for other listeners and viewers to the podcast. Now, we've been talking a lot about Ripe recently, and you've been sending us your feedback, the majority of which has been incredibly positive. Lee Magano sent us this. We watched your YouTube channel yesterday and you mentioned Ripe Insurance, so I gave them a call today as our insurance runs out at the end of the month. We own a 2022 Swift Contiki 764, and on the other end of the phone they were very polite, saying I'd get 25% off the quote using the Motorhome Matt code. Great news. When we started the quote, so they asked the category of the tracker I had. I answered category S7 and there was a pause, and then they said, sorry, but we need a category S5 as a minimum. That stopped us dead in our tracks.
So we had to abandon the call. I rang Sargent, the tracker supplier, and straight afterwards and asked them. They confirmed with me that it indeed was an S7. He said nearly all trackers supplied by Sargent are S7. So it looks like there's an awful lot of us that will be unable to use Ripe for their insurance. So it's back to the drawing board.
Now, Lee's experience, unfortunately, wasn't as seamless as, say, Matt's, but we passed on his feedback to Ripe to ask for their comment, and they said,
we currently require a category S5 tracker for only the most expensive vehicles that we cover. But following feedback from our customers, we're in the process of reviewing our tracker requirements and plan to make updates soon so we can also accept category S7 trackers. Customers who have a category S5 tracker will still receive the biggest discounts we have available to reflect the higher level of security offered by these.
They went on to say we're always looking for ways to grow and improve our product and the overall customer experience. So we find feedback like this essential. Ripe went on to say they're sorry that Lee experienced this issue on this occasion and apologise that his call didn't go as planned. Ripe says they really appreciate feedback and hope that you will consider us the next time you're buying insurance.
See, I think that's brilliant. I love it when a business engages with customers like this and then develops its offering based on the feedback they've received. It really gives me confidence in the brand. I think it's great. So Lee, Ripe are acting upon the feedback of you, their customer, and hope you will consider them again in the future. So if you need insurance and yours is due for renewal, click the link in the episode description to start your quote with Ripe and enjoy an automatic 25% discount off your premium, or give them a call and say Motorhome Matt to get your 25% discount over the phone.
Thanks, Lee, for that question. Now, Carol's in Tinnegongle. Hi, she says, just been listening to your podcast on weights on motorhomes. We bought ours from a well-known dealer back in 2013, so that makes it 18 years old. The registration document has a weight of 3,500 kilograms. Several years ago, while cleaning under the bonnet, we noticed another oval plate with 3,850 kilograms. It has never been amended at the DVLA. My husband has fortunately got his C1 entitlement. What shall we do? There was no paperwork with the motorhome regarding this. So there you go, Matt.
No panic though. Check the V5. What does the V5 say? If it says 3500, that's what it's been registered as. Often there are two plates on the slam panel. This is under the front of the bonnet when you lift it. The original chassis manufacturer, so Fiat, for example, will have the original plate that the van itself was built to be, and then the motorhome converter, for example, Adria, will add their plate, and often they make it 3500 so they can sell it to anybody with a regular car license. It does, of course, decrease the payload, but it has become a 3500 motorhome gross weight. And then check your V5 and see what that says. If the V5 says 3850, then yes, you have been overpaying your road tax, but it's the V5 that the DVLA care about. So I think you're going to find it says 3500 on there.
There you go, Carol. Hope that helps you. So, Matt, if somebody wants to ask a question, what should they do?
We'd love it if you did. Just head to mhmp.info/ask Matt. Hit the orange button and record your question, or fill out the form and we'll read it out for you.
And do say where you're from, even if it is Tinny-Gongle. And you can subscribe as well, can't you, Matt?
We would love if you did that. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the little bell, and then YouTube will tell you when a new episode is released. And our YouTube is brought to you by the lovely guys at arabasecreative.co.uk.
And I only think it would be fair to share.
We would love it if you did. If you have a friend that you think would find this podcast useful or even entertaining, then please send them a link to it. The more the merrier.